When we have $36 trillion in debt, and we're taking care of countries that are very rich and sending aid to countries in some...
Guys, so Donald Trump is getting clearer with his logic on the reasons why USAID and things like PEPFAR, which South Africa has been argued to be the biggest gainer, so to speak, from PEPFAR funding and aid for patients living with HIV and AIDS in South Africa. It's argued that South Africa has as much as 8.5 thereabout million people living with HIV and AIDS, and PEPFAR funding that has actually now been cut off and really still being blamed, there's a lot of blame now put on AfriForum and I think Solidarity for being one of the reasons why all of those aid cuts and other calamities anyway that actually has come on South Africa has been. But anyway, Donald Trump now is getting clearer, and one of the reasons why in this video he argues that this is the reason why aid had to be cut from many countries was because of the fact that he saw, and he's a businessman. Trump is a businessman. This is a kind of like capitalist, so to speak, who think in terms of productivity, and that's why he actually had to employ Elon Musk, to serve at the helm of affairs in the Department of Government Efficiency, because I saw one other podcast arguing that what Elon Musk is trying to do is exactly what he did at X. So that when he bought X, there was a lot of firing and also cutting of a lot of excesses to make sure that X becomes profitable and all that. So Donald Trump has argued that USAID has been a fraud and it has been funding really funny programs and schemes all over the world. I think there was one of the funniest I heard was funding, I think it was kind of like a show in one country, so to speak. And so taxpayers' money from the US were actually going to fund all of these programs, which Donald Trump doesn't think is in the interest and to help the sovereignty and the prosperity of the United States. And so one of the things he actually speaks about, especially in terms of PEPFAR, is the fact that, the US cannot keep funding rich countries. And you see, many African countries are very rich, but one big problem we have in Africa, especially from the level of leadership, is how to convert the wealth we have into tangible wealth to really help our people. And also many of the African leaders really simply sometimes do not really care about the people, but they actually have become these vehicles to really care for themselves and their own generations. And so Donald Trump is actually, in a way, this is from my own thinking and my analysis, in a way sort of like helping Africa get a personal wake-up call, because he argues in this video that the aid that goes to, from the US, many US agencies in billions cannot be given to wealthy countries. If you look at South Africa is an extremely wealthy country. Gold, mines all over the place and resources that can be mined to be converted. But for some reason, South Africa is unable to generate that wealth and translate that wealth. I think there's a word some of the leaders in South Africa use. I think it has to do with conversion, so to speak. So beneficiation, yes, that's the word. So beneficiation is something that South Africa hasn't really been able to master. So when you get these raw materials and have them converted into final products, there has to be beneficiation in the land. But South African leaders and South Africa itself hasn't been able to convert. And Trump has actually, in this video, is actually arguing that America cannot keep on propping countries that are actually already rich. And as a result of that, we're going to be seeing more aid cuts for the next 4 years, which he's going to be in power. And I think that's really going to be a kind of like a major blow anyway for societies and economic that have actually been dependent on the US, like South Africa. But let's quickly listen from the horse's mouth, from Donald Trump himself, on one of the problems he sees with aid, USAID, the likes of PEPFAR, and all of that, especially coming to countries like South Africa, but African countries generally. And share your thoughts on what you think about Donald Trump's speech here on why he's cutting aid to many of these countries like South Africa that get a lot of aid from the US. Share your thoughts in the comments.
So on USAID, sir, what is kind of like the message to countries that depend on humanitarian aid distributed through USAID? What is your message to those countries?
The ones that have been, the few that have been legitimate in terms of getting legitimate money, will probably put it through the State Department. It'll be handled by Marco Rubio, highly respected man, Secretary of State. There's no reason for USAID, when you look at the politicians that have been in there sucking the blood out of it, when you look at all of the fake deals, I mean, look, all you have to do is get a list of all of the things. You can see by the heading. It's fake, it's fraudulent, it's probably kickbacks, where they send the money and then it gets kicked back to the person that sent it. So the ones that are good, and there are not many of them, but the ones that are good, and there are some, will probably have that be handled by Marco Rubio in the State Department.
Will they take on some of the USAID workers?
They could, if they like.
Mr. President,
Will it still be called USAID, Mr. President, or will it not?
I don't know that it's going to exist. Why would you need it? The State Department can take that.
Do you think the amount of spending on foreign aid will decrease also, or just the number of employees?
It should decrease, yeah. I hope it decreases.
Yeah, by how much?
When we have $36 trillion in debt, and we're taking care of countries that are very rich and sending aid to countries in some cases that are rich, in some cases they're not rich. But no, it should very much decrease.
Mr. President,
But it won't be the scams that you've seen.
Just two foreign policy questions. On Putin again, you realize if you don't clarify that, everyone's going to assume you're talking to President Putin regularly.
Well, they can assume that.
So is it safe
It makes
to-
sense. Well, I don't want to talk about it. And if we are talking, I don't want to tell you about the conversation. It's too early. But I do believe we're making progress. We want to stop the Ukraine-Russia war. And I want to stop it just because I hate to see all these young people being killed. The soldiers are being killed by the hundreds of thousands.
So you're starting to put together a plan for like a peace formula or some sort of resolution?
We're talking to both sides. Yeah.
Okay. And then on Japan, are you okay with having a foreign country having a controlling interest in a U.S. steel company?
Well, now let's look at this. When I came here, they were going to buy it, and Biden was going to approve it. All of a sudden, Biden didn't because he heard I wasn't going to. I don't want U.S. steel being owned by a foreign
But a
country.
controlling interest is okay?
They can have they don't have a controlling. They have an investment. All they're going to have is an investment.
Will it be a joint
I don't
venture?
mind. I don't mind an investment in a company, but especially U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel for 15 years was the greatest company in the world, the greatest #1 company in the world, and I'm not going to let another country buy it. We had a great meeting on that, but they are allowed to invest in it, and that's different.
Mr. President, on tariffs, sir, you've talked about reciprocal tariffs coming in this week. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And are you announcing a plan for it this week?
Yeah, I'll be
The tariffs
announcing.
themselves kick in this week.
I'll be announcing probably Tuesday or Wednesday at a news conference reciprocal tariffs, and very simply, it's if they charge us, we charge them. That's all.
When does it go into effect, sir?
Almost immediately. But I'll be announcing the details of it, highly detailed, and it'll be great for everybody, including the other countries. But if they are charging us 130% and we're charging them nothing, it's not going to stay that way.
This is on every country?
Every country will be reciprocal. That's right. Every
President, can you confirm that
It won't affect everybody because there's somewhere we have similar tariffs. But the ones that are taking advantage of the United States, we're going to have it's reciprocity, it's reciprocal. We're going to have a reciprocal tariff. But we'll have a news conference Tuesday or Wednesday.
And just on the steel question, just so I understand.
We'll
you
also be
correctly,
announcing steel tariffs on Monday.
on this tomorrow.
Monday, yeah, tomorrow.
What countries will those go on?
Everybody, steel.
Including Canada, Mexico,
Yeah,
United States.
any steel coming into the United States is going to have a 25% tariff.
What about aluminum, sir?
Aluminum too.
10%? What's yours?
25%.
25 for aluminum.
25 for both.
For both. And on steel, sir, are you ruling out then Nippon Steel having a 51% stake or higher? They won't have a majority stake?
Nobody can have a majority stake for U.S. Steel. They can for other companies, but not for U.S. Steel. I think you agree with that, don't you? Right? U.S. Steel was one of our great companies, and through a lot of stupidity and bad government and also bad management of the company, it lost that luster. But it's going to gain it back, and tariffs are going to help. Tariffs are going to make it very successful again. And I think it is good management now, too. Yeah.
May I ask one, please? Can you tell me, can you confirm that you'll be meeting with MBS and CC of Egypt soon? Will that be at the White House, or are you going to speak?
Well, I'll be meeting with all of them numerous times, by the way, but I'll be meeting with all of them. And yeah, I think that it's a big mistake to allow people, the Palestinians or the people living in Gaza, to go back yet another time. And we don't want Hamas going back. And think of it as a big real estate site. And the United States is going to own it and will slowly, very slowly, we're in no rush, develop it. We're going to bring stability to the Middle East, to a totally war-torn part of the Middle East, a part of the Middle East that has caused tremendous problem. tremendous problem, the Gaza Strip, and we'll own it. It's totally demolished right now. It's a demolition site. It'll be reclaimed. It'll be leveled out, fixed up. There won't be anybody there. Hamas won't be there. We'll be building through other of the very rich countries in the Middle East. They'll be building some beautiful sites for the people, for the Palestinians to live in. They'll be living in harmony and peace probably for the first time in hundreds of years.
And just to clarify, I know you don't want to tell us about your conversation with President Putin, but can you clarify whether you had that since you've been in office, or whether it happened before you became president?
I've had it. Let's just say I've had it. And I expect to have many more conversations. We have to get that war ended. It's going to end, and we have to get it ended. And we have to get it ended. So should have never happened, would have never happened if I was president.
Mr. President, a couple of years ago, your vice president suggested that if the Supreme Court rules in a way you don't like, just let them enforce it. Do you agree with that?
Say the last part.
The vice president suggested that if the Supreme Court rules in a way that you don't like, they can just enforce it by themselves. Do you agree with that?
I don't know even what you're talking about. Neither do you. Who are you with?
Up close, sir.
Who?
Up close.
Oh, no wonder. I thought they died. Are they still around? I haven't read them in years. I thought they died. All right, go ahead. Who else?
On security clearances, you've been yanking a lot of them. Why does it make the country safer to take away the AG security clearance? And is that a form of retribution?
If there's somebody, no. If there are people that we don't respect, if there are people that we thought that were breaking the law or came very close to it in previous years, we do it. And we've done it with some people. We've done it with Biden himself. We think our country is not as safe if you gave him clearance. We don't think he knows what he's doing. And what he's done to this country is a disgrace. And what he's done in terms of allowing criminals, murderers, drug lords into our country, people from mental institutions into our country, he should be ashamed of himself.
Is that a legally valid reason?
On deportations, there's been some reporting that you've been upset that there haven't been more deportations. Can you clarify that?
I think they're doing an incredible job. It's very tough. Deportations, finding murderers is not easy. Some of them are actually very smart. They shouldn't be in our country. There wouldn't have been. We had beautiful, we just set records for closure. We have the strongest border we've had in many years, since my term. But even for many, many years, decades before that. They're doing an amazing job, I think. Tom Homan's doing an amazing job. Kristi Noem is doing an amazing job. But it's not easy finding murderers who know they're being looked for. But we're sending out thousands of people. We're getting rid of thousands of criminals from our country.
So, do you expect to meet him in person?
Where?
Putin. Do you anticipate meeting with him?
I would imagine I would be meeting with Putin, yes, at the right time. I think at the right time, at the appropriate time.
Mr. President, heading on Gaza, the White House press secretary told us last week that you're committed to rebuilding Gaza. Steve Witkoff said that process would take 10 to 15 years. Does your commitment to rebuilding Gaza extend beyond your time in office?
I'm committed to buying and owning Gaza. As far as us rebuilding it, we may give it to other states in the Middle East to build sections of it. Other people may do it through our auspices. But we're committed to owning it, taking it, and making sure that Hamas doesn't move back. There's nothing to move back into. The place is a demolition site. It'll be, the remainder will be demolished. Everything's demolished. I mean, you can't live in those buildings right now. They're very unsafe. But we'll make it into a very good site for future development by somebody. We'll let other countries develop parts of it. It'll be beautiful. People can come from all over the world and live there. But we're going to take care of the Palestinians. We're going to make sure they live beautifully and in harmony and in peace, and that they're not murdered. This has been the most dangerous site anywhere in the world to live in. Hamas has been a disaster. And by the way, I have to tell you that I watched the hostages come back today, and they look like Holocaust survivors. They were in horrible condition. They were emaciated. It looked like many years ago, the Holocaust survivors. And I don't know how much longer we can take that when I watch that. I know we have a deal where we're supposed to they dribble in and keep dribbling in, but they are in really bad shape. They have been treated brutally, horribly. Even the ones that came out earlier, they were in a little bit better shape, but mentally they were treated so badly. Who could take that? At some point, we're going to lose our patience. When I see that scene that I saw today with people coming out of helicopters and airplanes that are emaciated, that look like they haven't had a meal in a month, there's no reason for that, and I don't know how much longer we can take it.
Do you mean you want to recast?
I don't know how long we can take it. When I watch people that were healthy people a reasonably short number of years ago, and you look at them today, they look like they've aged 25 years. They literally look like the old pictures of Holocaust survivors. The same thing. I mean, the same thing.